Perfect. Yeah, I'll share the recording with all of you when we're finished.
So 21 years ago, most of you were there in the very early days. And if I had posed the challenge, not that I didn't pose some daunting challenges to you, but if I had posed the challenge of you're going to figure out how to increase your revenue tenfold over the next 20 years, I think the room might have emptied. But lo and behold, you've either done it or you're very, very close. So here's the roster of successful combatants. Jim Ball would have been with us, but he's been waiting for a specialist appointment, and it came up at 1 o'clock today. So unfortunately, Jim can't be with us. And Tom Hickey would be a qualifier, but he had a conflict. So we are who are. So without further ado, what I would like to do is turn it over to you guys. And what I had asked you to do was think in terms of 4 points. What was your revenue growth over that span? How'd you do it? What would you do differently? And what impact did IC3 have on your success? So I was thinking maybe we would go west to east. And Laura, I know you've excused yourself from a meeting to be with us. So maybe if we let you go first, if they call you back in the meeting, then we will have heard what you have to contribute. So how
Laura
are you
loves
doing?
to go first too.
Yeah. Well, it's funny
ice.
because I had to come to the Vancouver office today, so I'm technically in the mail room because I had to find some space after I excused myself. So I've come all this time and I'm working out of the mail room. So I don't know if that's like an accomplishment or
Good for you, Laura.
And it's super hot in here, so I'm like overheating.
I thought maybe it was a journey down memory lane for you to your first job.
Yeah. So yeah, well, great to see you. I know there's a few people on the call I don't know, so I don't, maybe our paths have crossed over the years, Andy and Tim, but I'm Laura and I'm out of the Victoria Legacy office of Meggs and Fitzpatrick and now a Sarah Insurance. So that's been a part of our journey to get where we are today is it's funny thinking back to Jay Tucson. I think most of you knew Jay. He had this vision always to bring a bunch of large brokers together, but to actually partner up together. And I find, that's where we've kind of come through all this process. But, Rick, I didn't bring the slides with me that I did send you, but I know we're at 20 million revenue now. And I think probably 21 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, did I put in there that we were at probably 8 million?
Here you are.
Rick, if
I did make some
slide deck. If you have her slide deck, you should open it and show your screen.
Can you see the
We can't see your screen now.
slides? No. Okay, hang on a second.
So I'll just go through this quickly. So yeah, the next slide there is our revenue, I think.
You should be able to advance the slides.
Oh,
no, you're not. No.
Okay.
Sorry. No, of course not.
That would be.
Hang on. You always love me for being such a great techie. There we go.
Probably better you than me. Oh yeah, so we were at 3.4 million back in 2004, and we just hit our 20 million revenue mark. And this is just legacy Meggs and Fitzpatrick. This is nothing to do with the large organization that we're a part of. So that was hard to find that number actually to go back that long, but that's where we are today at 20 million.
Wow.
As like I said, legacy Meggsons. And then the next slide, I think these are just some things that I just quickly, because I did this on the fly before I was traveling, and then I asked my girl to put it together for me. But having a succession plan, that was a huge part of our journey, and making a few acquisitions. We've made some location changes that we think have helped our trajectory. planning and goal setting was new to us before we came into the VGNet world. We have a massive focus on commercial insurance, and Vancouver Island has a big Lloyd's presence, so that's definitely helped our success. Coming out of VGNet, streamlining our leadership and actually assigning people to positions. That was something we hadn't really done before. We were just kind of all hands on deck, and then just trying to be as nimble and flexible as we possibly can be. The next slide, I think my EA put this in as a kind of a cheeky thing because I didn't have time to think about anything, and so I noticed that she put that in there. What would we do differently?
Nothing.
I don't know.
You're
I'd like to hear.
perfect.
I'd like to hear. Yeah, I don't know. It's like there's a few things definitely from my perspective. We partnered with our organization out of Calgary, and it definitely wasn't as smooth as we had hoped. And there was definitely some differences that we probably should have done a little bit more research and inquiry, but that's okay. Here we are today. And then as far as VGNet goes, that last slide there, Rick, it's just all the things that came out of VGNet back in the day. We didn't have core values. We didn't have a purpose statement. We didn't plan. We didn't budget. We, didn't do trade-off. We didn't have a small business department. We didn't have an org chart. We didn't have that sort of trusted advisor philosophy. We were okay at communicating, but not great at it. And then our culture. I think that's been a huge part of our success as well, as focusing on our culture. So yeah, so those are
really be helpful, especially during the times that we've been through the last few years. Culture's been a real big issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we thought our cultures were the same across all the organizations that have merged together, but we've learned very quickly that they aren't. There's a lot of differences, and but we hold strong on the island, I feel, and I feel very I don't know, a big part of that. I think the culture and the people have always been a focus for me. And so I think that's really been helpful for our retention and just attracting good talent over the years. Any questions? I think that's it, the end of my slides.
How are you finding attracting new talent right now?
I don't know what's happening right now, but we're on a little bit of a positive trend, and we are actually having quite a bit of success right now, even on the ICBC front. And I don't know, Al, if you guys are finding the same thing in BC right now. We're getting lots of referrals from lots of cultural referrals. We hire a couple team members from the Indian community, and they've made tons of referrals within their community, which has been amazing success for us on the island. I'm here today in the Burnaby office because our underwriting team has really grown, so we're moving some people around and attracting some pretty good talent, I think, on the underwriting side from the insurance company. So that's been successful for us, because that's a huge part of our success is our Lloyd's and our underwriting authority that we've been given.
So you've had a lot of organic growth then, Laura. Am I?
Yeah,
is that
a little
correct?
bit of a little bit of acquisitions as well through the years. Well, we'd already acquired Shanley Tucson, so then the Town and Country office, Cumberbirch. We opened up an Nanaimo office, so we acquired a small. That was a big mistake, actually. Now that I'm thinking about that, that was actually a very big mistake.
What would you do differently?
Yeah.
Which was a mistake, Laura?
We opened up in Nanaimo in an office in Nanaimo from scratch. We decided just to open this office, and we were just we think it's a community that's growing, and we can write business in Nanaimo, but if you don't have boots on the ground there, they like to support local. So we opened up this office, and we had a guy move up there to start it, and then we attracted some talent from Waypoint, which was amazing. And so we got quite a few people working there from the Waypoint offices, and then word got out that we were opening in Nanaimo, and one of the MGAs that we deal with, we found out that they owned a small brokerage. They had a small commercial book and they were trying to sell it. So we didn't do our research, and we just thought it would be a good thing, right? Then we have a little bit of business because we were starting from scratch.
Right.
And we let the Alberta office of our side of our organization kind of do all the due diligence, and it was I wouldn't say it was an epic fail. We kept a lot of the business still, but it was a dog's breakfast, to say the least. And so that definitely lessons learned there.
Yep, lessons learned.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey, I got a quick question
congratulations.
I have a quick question for you, Laura.
Yeah.
Can you hear me
Does
okay?
Luke still work for me? Does your cousin still? He's my partner in crime.
It's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Work from home versus work from the office. Are you entirely in the office now with your staff, or do you have a hybrid working environment? How have you found that?
That's a good question. We have found it we've been very lucky, I think. I don't know why, but we have a lot of things going on. If you were close to an office, almost 90% of the people came back to work and they wanted to be in an office. And then we opened up a little bit of the hybrid for those that would like the option. We don't really have Legacy Medicines does not have a policy, but where we've really had success is actually having existing employees move or hiring people where their current employer would not let them work remotely 100%. So we have staff all across the country. We have a girl in PEI. We have somebody in Montreal. We have people in the interior that work 100% remotely, and it's been very successful. We've had one problem that was really unfortunate, and it was a mental health kind of a thing. But other than that, and we continue to do it. We just interviewed a girl, and she lives in Cowichan Bay, and she works 100% remotely. And yeah, so it's been very successful for us. But we also have like a huge percentage of people 100% back in the office.
Right.
So somebody in PEI is an example that's working for you. Do you license them in BC? And they were
Well,
residents?
actually, she started at the office, and she's in our marketing and communications. So she isn't a licensed broker. And
Okay.
then her and her husband, he's from PEI. And so she decided she'd already been working remotely in Victoria for a couple of years through COVID. And then they wanted to move to PEI where they could afford a house. And I didn't see any reason why. She works our hours. Why, if she was good already and she was a high performer, we were just like, this is a no-brainer, and it's worked out really well.
Quite a
Great.
time
Great.
difference too, right? 5 hours.
Yeah, she's up early, man. No, I guess
Oh,
she
4
starts
hours,
late.
4 hours.
Yeah, she starts late. She works like 12 till 8 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that sure wouldn't work for everyone. So you've got to pick your spots, I guess, don't you?
Yeah.
Right people. The right people
Yeah.
working full-time remotely.
Yeah.
Apparently hybrid is the thing right now, like in terms of satisfaction from employee standpoint. People like hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
With
the
this-
worst at-home worker ever. Like the
Oh.
worst.
Yeah.
So
I've always liked the at-home stuff.
Well, great. Thank you, Laura. That was
yeah, of
That was
course.
very
a
interesting. Thank
wonderful
you.
story. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank
congrats,
you.
Laura. That's awesome.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
well done.
Let's hop over to the lower mainland, and Chris, why don't we go with you? Would you
Okay.
like to share your screen?
Yes, I need you to stop sharing in order for me to start sharing.
You
Thank
got it.
Okay. There we go. Bear with me. Yeah. Everybody see?
Yep.
We're all
Yep.
clear. It really is nice to see all your faces. Tim, I just saw you last week, but
It's still a nice
good to see
face.
everybody again. Yeah.
It's
It's
a
one of the
nice
reasons I'm
face.
in this industry is the people around me. So in any case, well, we didn't know what we were doing then, and I'm not sure we know what we're doing now, but you know, even a blind squirrel finds a nut someday. So in 2004, we were just under 3 million, and now we'll be 20 million this year
Holy
Uh,
smokes.
because of revenues. And then we have about 12 million in real estate that we've acquired along the way to build on top of that. That's worked out very well as well for it was kind of a, you know, it was an accident. Jim actually was the hard driver on that. He wanted us to own a building, and at the time when we did the math on it, we had a bunch of different leases. We consolidated them, and it was cost neutral on buying a property. And we all know what real estate has done over the last few years. So
Wow, yeah.
not because we had any divine foresight, but again, you just sometimes luck favors those that take risks. And it's been a good run. So the things that worked for us was definitely acquisition was part of it. We did a few along the way. And I'll talk a little more about that. Brand diversification amongst different brands that we have. So not all brands fire as well or as successfully at the same time, depending what the market is doing, whether it's the insurance market or whether it's the consumer market. And so I think that has also helped us. We're no matter what's going on, we always have divisions that are winning. We did consolidate everybody into one location. We gave up on ICBC Auto about, I don't know, 14 years ago, and just said it's not a direction we want to head in. Because, we looked at it, we thought, well, the writing's on the wall, technology's coming around, and at some point this is going to change. So whenever we did an acquisition of a brokerage, we carved out the license separately and sold it off. And that allowed us to have with limited resources we had at the time, to become more commercially focused and commercially focused under one property casualty brand. We did roll everybody under the Reliance brand. And at that time, focused on Lower Mainland geography. The brokerages that we did, there's been 17 roughly in total, everything from books of business as small as $500,000 to our biggest one was Pat Anderson. That cost us $13 million. And I don't know if I've ever told you all the story on that, but 24 hours before the deal was supposed to close, we didn't have financing.
Oh, dear.
Oh,
And we thought it was dead, but I didn't want to give up. And so again, luck favors those that take risk, and we managed to find it. The building we're now in is about 17,000 square feet. We have everybody in here. We are a hybrid strategy. We have some employees that were working from home long before COVID. We're a little over 100 employees, and I would say before that, 30 of them were already remote. So it wasn't new to us, but we did have to come up with a policy. It is hard to mentor people, to build a culture and other things when people are not in the office. Those water cooler conversations, all the things you hear about, I think are real and valid. So even the people that work from home, we are requiring them to be in the office a few times a week.
Do you have a schedule that they all follow the same, like these are the 2 days or 3 days?
Yeah, we do work around that, and we have some people that have 4-day work weeks, so there is scheduling around that. It does get a little complicated and a bit challenging when you're short-staffed. I've made enough bad hires to know what a good one looks like, and same thing with our management team, trying to sort of share that experience. And so I am ruthless and uncompromising on a cultural fit, and the consequences of that are sometimes you sit with a vacant position for 9 months, 10 months. It puts stress on the rest of the team. At the same time, they know we have their back, and we're not going to bring in someone who's going to be toxic or cause a problem. Now, the odd time, it's rare now, the odd time one slips through, but I'll tell you what, in terms of, I remember Rick's advice of many years ago, hire slowly and fire quickly. They are gone. They're out.
Yep.
It's well documented. We err on the side of being generous and trying to help people. We even hired industrial psychologists in some cases to try and take the edges off of someone that we thought had so many other great qualities to them, but it doesn't always work out. So we got really strict on this about 5 years ago, and we had some turns. We had some people leave. I think something else I learned in this network that Jim and I learned was, you're doing a good job when people leave before you fire them. Right. And if they're the people that weren't fitting in, even better. So yeah. And that's, we try and again expand this across all of our brands. Those are them. You all know Reliance. Safe Harbor is a retail marine broker. It's an online play that operates in Ontario predominantly. Proform is our retail E&O broker. Everyone knows our marine MGA. Thank you for the support. Those of you that use it. We have a specialty MGA now that's casualty focused, although a property slip is almost done. And the premium finance company, that was, again, something that came out of being with all of you. That's been a great way to add a point or two to the bottom line. And now we have the holding company for the real estate. 10 Great Place, small business unit, and again, the premium finance. Those are the things that really hit home. You know, we had ideas, but you know, the old saying of what got you here won't get you there. You have to adjust your strategy. I feel like we're kind of there again now. We need to retool some things, and we've got some plans on how to do that, but it's scaling up expertise, really is what it is at this point. We have more large opportunities than we have the expertise to meet them. And so that means having to do some pretty big hires. And, you know, I've been courting some producers at no one's competitor here. And there is opportunities out there amongst some of the big three. That's it.
Cool.
Good job, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, you know, you're only as good as the company you keep, and you are smarter by virtue of the people that you're around. So I just appreciate all the learning through osmosis, and everyone, you know, being very candid and supportive throughout this experience.
Nice.
Excellent.
Do you do any personal lines, Chris?
We do. It's about 30% of our business.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, a chunk of that is also fleets. So when I say we don't do much ICBC, but we do fleet business, and that's grown for us for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's what you do a decent size of ICBC. It's no like it just seems to happen, right? Even though you got one location, you didn't make it a retail thing, it just keeps building.
Yeah, you know, and the thing about that, Al, is 1% of it is walk-in traffic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
You know, the rest of it is just the fleets and whatever else is going on.
It's great.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
job. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That was great. Let's move a little bit towards the inland side of things. Al?
Sounds good. There we go. Oh. All right. So can you everybody see that?
Yep. Small,
Thought you
but
could-
we could see it, but it's
is it
small.
really small? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you don't need to read it. It's I just got a kick out of this because I went back to one of my old binders, and this is, I should have it framed on the wall,
Consulting,
my
yeah.
acceptance letter into the Vertical Growth Network, written by Mr. Rick Bowman, the president, on March 24th, 2005. So
Wow.
Al, you and I are proof positive that Rick would let anybody in. So
yeah, that's true. Good point. Just
No,
even
he
more
was-
so in those days.
He was very selective.
Yes, yeah. So
Sometimes I would say, I wonder what would happen if we dropped one of these in.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, that was
Love
I
it.
think we hit a couple of boot camps just before this. It was sort of like, you know, get to know us sort of deal, and then we made that full commitment in March 2005, and then bought the business in September of 2005. So later that year. If you couldn't see that last one, I'm worried that you're not going to see this one, but it's not a big deal. I'll explain it to you. On the left is our very first vision. So we started in September 2005 at 1.8 million in revenue. And our tagline, you remember the book, Good to Great, it's still probably a reference tool for everybody, is the drive to 3.5 and getting the right people on the bus. And a lot of these things, the three simple things we had in our approach still exist today. They may not be within our vision, but they're certainly applicable. 1.8 driven to this September, we'll finish it just over 26 million in revenue. A couple of things we've been proud of is always maintain greater than 20% EBITDA. That 20%, 28% has come in the last couple of years because of the rising expense.
Wow.
Certainly people expenses has been double digits for 3 years now, so that's been challenging. And our average annual growth rate over the last 7 years has been 12.3%. So
That's pretty good. That's pretty
Wow.
amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah, it's been steady. Some of the keys to success, discipline growth, whether we're talking markets, segments of business or industry, and our acquisitions. We have a little saying everybody's heard, don't chase squirrels, don't get distracted. We didn't add insurers unless there was, absolute alignment and opportunity to under promise and over deliver to them. We've had a lot of opportunities over the year. We've been very fortunate. Like many of you, insurers seek us out, and it's, sometimes we just had to say no because we just knew we couldn't meet, whether it was volume commitments or appetites didn't align, or sometimes it was just thoughts on the future. And so we've been quite disciplined there. Whenever we've entered a segment, we've made sure that we can do it well and that we've had the expertise to do it. Residential realty being one of the recent ones, not so much that we needed a whole bunch of expertise, but that the timing was right, rates were on the rise, and in 3 short years, we grew that portfolio to more than 15 million in premium. So it's been a nice win.
Yeah.
Interesting times right now. In the last 2 months, I've never seen a hard market shift so soft, so quick. I mean, we're all old enough to have been through at least 3 or 4, and the shift has been crazy, especially in this segment. So a couple of outliers are doing some pretty crazy stuff, and so we're yelling to those who will listen to say, get your act together. And acquisitions, again, I think, well, I know we've walked away from more than we've made. There was a lot that we could have done. There's a couple I regret not doing. But in general, it was, about the right business mix, about gaining talent or strategic locations. There always had to be some sort of win that was going to be aligned with where we were going. Yeah.
Al, could you clear that dialogue box?
Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry.
It's blocking your slide.
Is that any better?
No,
No,
No?
there's a got it button on the bottom right corner. So pop up, I think.
Is there still something there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, just a sec. Still there?
It's a black
There's
screen
nothing there
now.
now.
Oh, there it is.
Any better?
There we go. Yep.
Yeah.
It's good now. It's gone.
Good. You got
Apologies.
it. Thank you.
Sorry about that. One of our keys to success is just alignment with our values, a little bit to what Chris and Laura talked, just culture, and making sure that our team was on the same page. We put everything through the filter of what's best for our people, and perhaps more the Richard Branson thinking. I know a lot of businesses think about what's best for the client, but we're more of how does this affect our people, and is it the right move, and in turn they'll do the right job for our clients. As always and forever, it will be nothing is more important than our brand and reputation. It has paid dividends over the years. We may not have grown as fast or done some things as well as others, or crush those big sales or whatever. But at the end of the day, we're all sleeping well and feeling good about the mark we've left on our industry. And lastly, just hiring great people and getting out of their way, allowing them to do great things. We're not micromanaged at all. We're if you've got our trust to hire you, then you've got our trust to act in our best interest. And I think people really appreciate that. I know our leadership does, in that they're, branch managers kind of running their own little business, doing it their way. We're providing guidance, but it's really theirs to own, and that's been very valuable.
Yeah.
Some of the keys to success, hiring for the future, I think, is just one of the things that really resonates with us. I was never the smartest guy, but somehow got some really fortunate luck to just hire the people and departments before we needed them. So, early on it was human resources, adding a couple of people that were deep in that, and really championing our culture. brand and communications. We hired a full-time marketing and communications person when we were, relatively small, and she took ownership of the brand and really, pumped it up in our markets. A few years ago, we went into full training mode, and that team is now 4 people deep, and that's all they do is train. They bring on a team quarterly for entry-level auto plan people, and they run a training team, and they're out in branches and participating in a huge way. And most recently, a year and a half ago, we added a CFO who has just been, it's actually a little embarrassing. I didn't realize how bad we were in some of our housekeeping until, you add that kind of expertise. So added immense value in more ways than one. And so that's been great. Regrets, do-overs, I wouldn't call them regrets. I think, and I've kind of referred to them, it's almost like what was our successes. There was a flip side to what was our weakness. I think could have closed some more acquisitions over the years, and perhaps I wouldn't have had the resources to have a full-time CFO, but I was learning as I went. I mean, I bought the business in September 2005. That was my first experience, and almost immediately tried to buy more, but I just didn't have all the experience. So I wish I'd been more aligned with somebody who could have provided that. I think we could have really got some nice wins there. And then I'm not a great insurance person. I run a business. It could be widget sales. It just happens to be insurance. So I should have gone out and found some commercial depth, some technical, and both the technical and the sales management side. We kind of stumbled in that sort of, maybe September 5. So like September to about September 2015, it was kind of like, we just kept taking runs at it, couldn't make it happen. So it would have been nice to have done a better job of that. And I'll go back to just, I don't know if I covered it, but actually go here. So the impact that vertical growth has had, providing us the foundation at a time when we were so small, just that sort of, we couldn't fill every role on the leadership team, but to know that those roles were there and how would we tweak them as they go forward, the 10 great plays and how they related to that. Going through my binders, I mean, I pull them out once or twice a year, take a run at something, a refresher. It's been huge value. Natural talent, back in the Colby days, doing Strengths Finder. Today we're on to DISC because one of our trainers is certified DISC. But it's all about strengths and weaknesses. It's so funny to watch some of the kids walk in and you start asking them about weaknesses and talking about identifying those weaknesses and how that actually becomes a strength. And they're all just crapping themselves. Like, I'm about to tell my new boss what I suck at. And it's, I mean, it's just such a, they don't always come clean at the start, but over a short period of time, they realize the organization they're with, the trust that they can have, and the realization of how that understanding that weakness is going to positively impact them in their future. It's very powerful. And ultimately, Chris and Laura both said it, a path to being best in class through all of you folks. There was nothing better than hanging out with the cool kids. And I reflect on all those names, Rick, here, I mean, I haven't seen Steve in probably 18 of those 20 years. Andy, I never really crossed a ton of paths with, but absolutely bumped into. And Chris, I think about, of course, Laura and Dave at Henderson Insurance. It's just been like, Alpine Insurance, it's just so many, just go through all the names and reminisce. They've all had a huge impact. And Tim, great to see that you're still in the business. I thought you had sailed off into the sunset. So great to see you still around and doing it.
I think just the confidentiality and the friendships that you have from that long too. Like, I know when Al and I, I don't know, there's just kind of this known thing, certainly Al and I try to get together a couple times a year that no matter what you talk about, it stays between you and you can share things that, you might not share with other people. It's been great.
The trust.
Trust.
Valuable. Yeah.
Yep, that's definitely special.
Well done, Al. been a pleasure
Yeah.
knowing you, buddy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
been great,
good
guys.
job.
Yeah.
Okay, now
Great
my problem
job.
is, how do I stop sharing my screen?
Just hit all the buttons, turn it on and off.
Well, that's the Sadie Bowman method.
That's the Sadie method.
Oh my
Sooner or
gosh.
later, if you hit all the buttons, one of them's gonna work, right?
Seriously, I've lost all my. Holy shit.
Sadie has a 2-pound sledgehammer.
Maybe if we reflect, maybe that's something we could have learned. Us old people, we could have
Well, while you
taught
guys
a bit
work
more
that out, I'm just gonna
technology.
excuse myself for a moment here. I'll be right back.
I'm just gonna jump out and come back in. So watch for me.
He's got to go and pound a bunch of buttons.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do
Oh, there
we
it is. There it
get
is. there
Rick's
it is.
screen back?
Well, we don't want mine. We actually want
Yeah,
Tim's.
who's next? Oh, Tim, and he just
He's
left.
gone for a bio break.
Uh-oh.
Oh my
Back
God,
to you for Roy.
guys. Why won't this?
Well,
So let's
yeah,
let's
do
skip
somebody
over
else.
to Stephen. Stephen?
Hi, guys.
Hi, Stephen.
You know, I don't seem to be able to share my screen.
Hang
Oh, we
tight,
could
guys.
cut-
I'm gonna just have to close this. I can't get the box back here.
Gotta love technology, huh?
I know. I need a time check actually, because I can't even see where my time is on my phone.
10:41.
Oh,
10:41. Okay,
There.
perfect. Thank you.
Can you see that?
Aha, success.
we
Yep.
got you.
Yep.
Okay. I have a really long presentation here, so guys sit back and get ready to
Enjoy.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Let's move to this screen. Okay. Remembering Rick's remarkable rules. So we sold our business in 2018. So I'm out of the business, so to speak, and that's 6 years ago. So to try and find binders that have IC3 information, and it's impossible, everything's been destroyed. So I had to go back in my memory, which isn't really great. So these are the things that I remember. Unique competitive advantage. You have to have one or you won't have vertical growth. People respect what you inspect. You guys remember that one? That was a choice one. Develop a hit list to drop. Identify your A, B, and C customers, and
Yep.
specifically and importantly,
Yeah.
my customer. Why is that guy my customer?
Right.
Monday setup, Friday cleanup.
Good one.
Let's do it. That was the salesman's mantra, right? That's what they had to repeat.
Right.
Yeah.
The perfect week, right?
Rope. Referral only production explosion. I only quote for clients. I liked it. Make the sporadic systematic and BHAG. To have vertical growth, you had to have a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals. So those are the things that I didn't have a binder that came to mind immediately. Rick's remarkable rules.
I like it.
I think Jim Collins should get a little bit of credit as well.
Well, I only read you, Rick. This is just an interesting slide, and I'm going to take you through it quickly, but it's a little bit of who we are. Cipher Systems Group of 3 people, 3 partners, myself, my brother, and a guy named Brian Schwab, and we were in business since 1983 together, and we created Cipher, was an automated office solutions company, and this is really how we got into insurance. So let me kind of walk through a few of these things. In 1984, an insurance broker wanted to automate his office with a printer and a computer, and he came to us and said, "Hey, can you do this for me? And if you are, I need you to automate my rating, automobile insurance rating in Ontario." And we said, "Yeah, sure, anything to sell a computer and a printer." And so we started to develop this piece of software, and we called it CompuQuote, and we incorporated it in 84. We realized pretty quickly that this was actually really difficult to do. And if we were going to do it for one broker, it made no economic sense. But if it was a product we could take across the country, maybe it might make some sense. So we went and we started to develop it that way. We learned again pretty quickly that if it blew up in a bunch of brokers' offices, so we got a bunch of complaints. So we decided we better have a test market, our own garage to kind of run it in. So we bought D-Up Insurance Brokers in 86, which was the retail insurance business. That's how I got into insurance. GM saw our product at an IBAO a convention and wanted to buy it. And we said, what do you need it for? And they said, well, we're launching a program to employees, retirees, and surviving spouses in Canada. And there were 65,000 of them. And we said, hey, we got a brokerage. We can do this thing for you, and we'll upload it into your I-90 system, and you handle post-sales renewals and claims. So we developed a relationship with General Motors, and that was our group and affinity business. So we sort of had software development, retail, group, and affinity. Then we got into the 90s and we thought, well, this is a pretty good gig. Let's go get the banks. And we went and we approached all of the big banks, kind of going, we got a plan, and here's how you can do insurance in a big way, etc. And Royal Bank kind of liked it. So we went after their employee group and landed that, and ran that group for a while, and then handed it over to them. And that was RBC Insurance Basic Carp Sauce. And we wrote that business and started to do what we would call business process outsourcing. You can see what we did through the rest of the 90s. In the early 2000s, GM was in trouble and they had to get out of all non-automotive business. So they had to get rid of their book of business that was Motors Insurance Corporation. So we JV'd with them. We took that book of business, which was all direct written, and converted it to a broker. We couldn't rest on our laurels. And so in 2001, we decided we'd expand our lines of business. We got into the travel insurance, and we bought a little travel brokerage that had $2 million worth of GWP, and decided we'd grow that business because it just seemed to fit with the personal line side of things. We realized pretty quickly that the problem with travel insurance was the way claims were settled. And so we, in 2007, bought a company called Active Care Management, which was a small medical claims adjudication and management company. In 2008, we needed to beef up our personal lines side of things and our retail business. So Southland became available. We bought it then. Moved into 2010, and President's Choice Financial had a direct written book of business with Aviva that they wanted to get. Aviva told them to shut it down. They brought it to us, and we converted it to broker-driven multi-market, $90 million worth of volume. It was a significant effort. We lost about 25–30% of that business, but it was so underpriced that we kept the volume about the same, even though we dropped off, 25–30% of the PIF. We then entered into the business of a self-directed consumer and started a brokerage called Insurance Hunter. Ontario Insurance Services brought over their business, and we managed it on a BPO basis. And then we got into the aggregator of financial services side of life, and that was 2014. Okay.
Quite a
I thought I'd
timeline.
give that sort of.
Is he going to
interesting-
keep going, or like, when does this stop?
Well, okay,
Just kidding.
that's 2014. So here's where
Wow.
we were at. Just kind of, you see, I just wrote GWP because I didn't have my revenue, and you can take 10% of that and see where we're at. So DF, when we kind of picked it up in 2004, we're looking at $7 million worth of personal commercial split. That GM book was 25 million. We had the travel business at 2. So you got about $34 million in GWP when we started our Bowman relationship. In 2018, we sold our business, and that's kind of where we were at. There's the Southland side of the business, and we rolled DF into it. The omni-channel owned business was stuff that's obviously ours. And you can see I put Active Care Management in there. We managed about $250 million worth of travel insurance business, the claims that came out of that book or those books. And they were CAA's book of business, Manulife's book of business, all on the travel side, and various credit card companies. Then a big part of our business was business process outsourcing with a bunch of different people that you'd recognize. Canadian Insurance Alliance was our brokerage, and Innova had a contract with Costco. So we did the Costco personal insurance across Canada. We did the same kind of thing with Northbridge, and Canadian Insurance Services was President's Choice Financial. So you can see the size of those books. We ended up on the sale of that business at about $415 million in GWP. And if you take 10% of that, roughly, there's your revenue side of things. So we sold CompuQuote as a brokerage in 2012, or excuse me, as insurance technology. We sold the brokerages in 2018 to Hub. We sold the travel business to Global Excel Management, and the aggregator we sold off to rates.ca, which is our friend Yagel Mayer's business now in Toronto. Wow, eh?
Wow,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a ride.
incredible.
Holy.
Yeah.
So how did we do it? And you guys have all said this, so, and I had this on my slide too. My dad always said to me, hire people smarter than yourself. So we hire good people.
Yeah.
And, you know, each one of you have said that's really what your key to, one of your keys to success. We had a big, hairy, audacious goal. The BHAG for us was take our top line and make it our bottom line in 4 years, T to B in 4. And we did that. So the way we did that was very aggressive sales targets. You know, we took risks, we planned, we leveraged our relationships, all to be able to do that. Develop strong, unique competitive advantages. I have a slide that shows you the kind of thing we would pitch to people, and corporate culture. You guys talked about it both on the employee and the corporate side. We had a great culture, and it's what attracted good people to us, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Here's a UCA that here's how we would describe ourselves just quickly. It's kind of fun. These are slide decks that I had from years ago. That's all I could find in my PowerPoints. But what made us unique, we had the capability, we were a broker, not a direct writer. And so a lot of these large group BPOs were all direct written, and this gave them the opportunity to be pretty happy about being able to find a solution for all of their customers. We had the capacity to manage high volumes. We had over 300-400 licensed insurance brokers, licensed across Canada. Yeah, you know, at our height, we had about 700 people that were working in the organization.
Huge.
We built out, because of our CompuQuote background, our own technology. So we had the state-of-the-art telephony that I mentioned here, our own web-based consumer quoting, our own CRM. These are all the things that helped us sell ourselves to Costco's and President's Choice Financials, that kind of thing. We did NPSs and customer surveys on a lot of the employees that were here. So we had a pretty good sense of who was good and who wasn't and what we needed to work on. We had our own education centers that we did all our own licensing internally. So that's, you know, we would show that kind of thing to potential customers. And what have I got on kind of final slides here? How was Rick and the team? What was their positive impact for us? A key for us was take the sporadic and become systematic, and that's clearly discipline, right? So I go to the gym, but I have to have a personal trainer because frankly, I can do push-ups, but I can't do 3 sets of it unless somebody says, get down on the floor and do another 3. And so that's how I use Rick, frankly. He was kind of like the personal trainer for our business, right? And he made us take the sporadic and become systematic about it. The BHAG really drove us top line to the bottom line in 4 years. So how we were going to do that, and a lot of planning and relationship development there, that was a key to success. And the other thing that helped us with our corporate culture was Nicaragua. And, you know, that gave us a sense of broader purpose, not only corporately, but staff. You know, we took a lot of our staff on all of those trips, gave them a week off work, helped them with their air flight costs, et cetera, to get down there, to have that sense of, you know, life is bigger than the office here. And we needed to add our grain of sand, you know, the granito de arena to our lives. You know, that common goal that we all work towards, whether it's within the business environment or outside of it. And Nicaragua gave us the chance to experience that from the outside. So there's, in a nutshell, in 6 slides, our life in business since 1983.
What a story. Thank you,
Yeah.
Stephen.
Great
Yeah, well
story.
done. You must be
Kind of
bored
fun,
stiff
yeah.
now, Stephen.
What's that? Well, no, you know what? We have 3 startups we're involved in. We got some real estate that we're working on here. We've got 3 hockey teams that we own. Yeah, we like this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
And
fun.
where are you now? What are you still living? You were in Windsor before.
I'm in Windsor. Yeah, I'm still there. Yeah.
Are you okay? Good for you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's an incredible journey, Stephen. it was interesting to see you guys pull off some of those things that, you know, three guys that all had a sense of humor and a focus, you know.
Well, as with all of us here in this room, this business has been very good to us, eh?
Yeah,
I'll
agreed.
say. Yeah.
You know, if you were in university and you said to people, you know, what are you gonna do? And I said, well, I'm gonna get into insurance, they'd look at you and kind of go, "Really, man?"
Yeah.
Been good to us. So
Stephen,
anyway,
how's your son doing? What I forget your son's name, the one I went to Nicaragua with.
Andrew.
Andrew.
Yeah, he's well, you know, he's like a young techie kind of guy. He's doing a search engine optimization for his business, and we use him on a couple of our startups actually. So he's doing really well.
Oh, good.
Yeah, really well. And he's married now, and they have one child that's just under 3 and another one on the way.
Oh,
Awesome.
Oh, great.
congratulations, Grandpa.
Yeah, so you look in the mirror, you call yourself grandfather. It's kind of a tough term, you know, to come.
Try
Yeah.
try becoming one at 50, Stephen. It was a little
Yeah,
tougher.
They can't call me grandpa, they have to call me pops. That's the way it's gonna be.
Yeah, that's good.
Pops is
Pops,
good.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
My recollection of Andrew and Nicaragua was the two of us leaning on a shovel over a big tub of cement, arguing about whether we needed more water or no more water.
Yeah.
It gets real basic in Nicaragua,
Oh,
real
yeah.
basic. Okay, Stephen, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Tim, we skipped over Prince Albert on our way to Windsor.
No problem.
But we're back.
That's good. I did not get slides together, so I'm just gonna have to use some colorful language to keep you entertained. You know,
Stephen, do you want to stop screen sharing, please?
Oh, yeah, I sure do. If I can find out how to.
sure. Well, I mean, all the real colorful and entertaining stuff happened prior to us joining Rick and Vertical Growth. He had an amazing calming influence and a system which we did not have at all before. Nothing. I mean, but I mean, you know, our revenue started out in the year 2000. Our revenue was 256,000. So we're by far the smallest kid on the block around this group. But I introduced that number because the reason that we went to Vertical Growth through Michelle Drouin was because we were experiencing rapid growth. It's not hard to double when you're that small. And so anyway, we did wind up by 2024 being 23.8 times the size we were in the year 2000. In 2004, we were just under $1 million in revenue. And this year we're going to pass the 8 million mark. And so that's the kind of growth trajectory. But to get back to the beginning, I'm pretty sure that Rick will remember making his trip out here and having a look at us and saying, well, you guys are too small. We don't deal with guys as small as you. And oh, maybe we'll take a chance on you and that. And it's like kind of, I don't mind saying, Rick, you kind of ticked me off a little bit. And so I said, yes, you're going to take us. And so anyway, we did sign up around that time. And we really stubbed our toe for a couple of years after. Because as I say, we had no system, we had no vision, we had no planning, we had no budgeting, no nothing. Everybody was doing everything, and motor license issuing, personal lines, commercial lines, the whole, you know. So we hadn't even specialized or departmentalized or anything. But Rick jumped in and we did a couple of those really valuable networking groups, and I gotta say thank you to Rick here for having the great idea to get us all back together here right now, but also for the great idea of that non-compete networking opportunity has been super valuable. for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, you know, a couple of things that have happened along the way was I had a 10-year plan with my then partner that after 10 years I would buy him out, and we were 6.5 years in, and he panicked and wanted to get out, and I wasn't ready for it. But so I just stood in my office and cried for a little while with the blinds closed, and then talked to Rick again, and moved on. And I told my partner at the time, I said, you know, you're making a mistake. We're really going to take off here. And unfortunately for him, and fortunately for me, it's exactly what happened. So volume wise, yeah, like that's pretty good growth. You know, what are the things that got us there? Well, actually having a system, any system, not just scrambling, and you know, getting a template of how to do business at all. So you know, we did some delegation, and we developed an executive team, and that's one of the biggest BFOs was that EMT, executive management team. Just the quality of the decisions that came out of that were profoundly different and better than what we had been doing before. We changed our name to Cornerstone Insurance in 2007, November. That was a branding and a re-strategy, and you know, that really boded well for us rather than using a family name or something like that. The concept of differentiation was foreign to us, so we learned that through vertical growth, and set about figuring ourselves out on that front. We also the employee engagement survey was a huge change for us. We didn't know what we were doing wrong, and found out in no uncertain terms. Apparently, you're supposed to communicate with people. We didn't know that.
Who'd have thought, eh? Who'd have thought?
So that was the biggest thing that came out of our first employee engagement survey. You know, so that was huge. You know, we grew our volume mostly organically. We have made a couple of acquisitions, one prior to vertical growth, which I swore I'd never do again. But my hat's off to Jim Ball, who helped me with the next one. And he shared with me his due diligence through one of those networking opportunities. And since then, we've done a few more, and they've all turned out pretty good. A couple of them have been basically the strategy there was to be on the good side of an insurance company, and SGI came to us with one that it was in trouble, so we took it and turned it around. Then My Mutual was another one of our insurers, and they asked us to do the same thing, and so they've been very valuable partners ever since we did those kinds of things. And so that we didn't do a whole lot of M&A, but we did some, and so that's what got us where we are. You know, if you guys had more time, I'd go back to the early colorful stuff, but basically, in a nutshell, that's how we got where we are now. The next question is kind of, well, what would you do differently? Well, we were slow adopters off the start. We looked at it like a Stonehenge of dominoes, and if you tip this one domino, it's going to go around, it's going to affect everything else. And so we were scared to start. But if I had things to do all over again, I would have been a faster adopter and less afraid to make the changes. And you know, I would have jumped in quicker and more wholeheartedly.
Experience.
Yeah, and Rick's always been big on the fear of change, and so we certainly learned not to fear change. And in fact, we were in Toronto, and Bonita was there, and the presentation was going on at the airport hotel there in Toronto, and an idea came forward from a fellow member. And I turned to my son, Brock, who's also in the business, and said, Brock, we should implement that. He said, I already did that. I texted it back to the office. It's happening. It's like, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's a
So-
quick adopter.
But Bonita got a big kick out of that one.
Yeah.
But so one, I guess, so there isn't really a whole lot that I would have changed. The hire slow and fire fast again was a thing that we were slow at adopting, and that's one thing I would change too, is move more quickly on those kinds of things. How did vertical growth or IC3 help? That's easy. We basically everything that we tried to do that you guys had suggested to us worked, which made it that much easier to accept the next decision and next change. And so when everything that you implement actually causes a direct and tangible result, it sure gets a lot easier to accept change and to move on. So I think that's how vertical growth helped us. And I just got to say thank you to Rick and Sadie for giving us the opportunity to get together and have a chat. So thank you so much.
It's been our pleasure.
Yes.
Good job,
Yeah,
Tim.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
right on,
good.
Tim. Yeah.
Good for you. Those employees, right? Employee engagement survey.
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
and that obviously turned us to a higher grade of employees.
Yeah.
Well, and Brock doesn't miss anything. He's a chip off the old block, right? So
Yeah, I'm tall and good looking, just like him. Sure, not.
Oh dear.
I have to share a quick employee engagement story. We lost a very dear friend a year and a half ago. He was a very successful car dealer, Mercedes dealer. And we were talking about employee engagement surveys with him over drinks one night. He said, survey employees? I don't want to know what they think. Of course, they're going to be pissed off with me. If they don't like it, they can leave.
That was his motto
So-
too.
So
Nice.
that's the other side of the employee engagement coin. I don't think I could have delivered that message. So
No.
anyway, thank you, Tim. A thing I remember about you and your former partner, Don, I believe you had the exact same Colby, but completely different personalities.
That's absolutely correct.
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
7554 is what it was, and we had to get that done for Monday morning when Rick was going to show up and go to work, and so we did it early in the morning, and I finished mine, and I got 7544 or whatever it was, and he's well, that's what I got too. And I said, this thing is about as reliable as a carnival weight guesser. It's like, but Don is he's an amiable guy, and I'm a pragmatic guy, and everything. Yeah, I'm aggressive as heck, and he's very soft spoken and easygoing. So it's so yeah, we're very different personalities, but exactly the same instincts. It rang true later on when I'd be away on business or on holidays, and while you were gone, I had to make these executive decisions. I did this and this. Well, that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
And then and vice versa. So it really came through.
It is pretty
I've-
interesting, Colby.
I've never run across that occurrence again, Tim.
I don't doubt it.
You guys broke the mold.
One
Yeah.
other
Okay.
thing you told me was that I think outside the box. I said, heck, Rick, I can't even find the box. I don't even know where it is.
Box less thinking.
There is no box.
Well, our journey is going to come to an end in Oakville. Andy, you've been very patiently waiting your turn. And I admire your tenacity. Thank you for hanging in there. Andy is in
And I,
the Magnus Insurance Brokers private boardroom at Pearson Airport in Toronto.
Oh, interesting.
It may look that way, but it sounds more like a bar in the airport. But,
Can't
hey,
complain about that.
the
I'm
Colby's
gonna
a
have to
perfect.
sign off though. That's the only thing. I'm so sorry, Andy. I feel
All
so
good.
bad, but I have to
No,
go.
no.
Nice to see you, Rick, Sadie.
Nice
Thank
to
you
see you
so much
too.
for organizing this. Great to see everybody. And
Yeah, you'll have
till
the
next time.
recording anyway, Laura. You can
Yeah,
look
that's
at the
true.
recording and
Thanks,
get it.
Laura.
Okay.
Don't be a stranger
Thank
when
you,
you're in
Laura.
Vancouver.
Yeah, well, I'm in Vancouver right now. Sorry, guys, but I didn't have time to see you. I'll see you at the conference.
Okay, all right. We'll see you
Yeah.
then.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks again.
See you later. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Laura.
Well, just continuing the Colby concept. So my Colby score is 3.210.3. So it won't surprise you that I didn't read all of the email that says we're supposed to have slides. But I got some other stuff instead.
That's good.
So first of all, so great to see so many of you that haven't talked to in ages, and yet so easy to just step back into these relationships. Thank you for that. That's a wonderful opportunity, and it's gratifying to be able to have those relationships. So to try and answer the question, so if I look at 2004, it looks like we were about 3 million in revenue, and we'll finish 25 at just over 25 million in revenue. And then over the course of that term, we sold off about just over $3 million in revenue as well, which is kind of part of our focus as we realized businesses that we were in weren't a good fit, and for one reason or another. So it's been a very interesting ride. Without doubt, the ideas that we got not only from BGN but from all of yourselves undoubtedly laid the foundation for this growth. I don't think we've had an original idea ever. We've just been really good at copying and stealing all the good ideas that you guys came up with. I think of the ideas that we did steal, the ones that were most impactful for us were become niched, become focused in some areas, and become expert rather than trying to be generalists. So many of the things everybody else has talked about, hiring well, moving up market. When I think about some of the early day things that we got out of BGN, the most important was moving us out of a family business mindset into a more sophisticated mindset. And that allowed us to bring discipline to our operation. It allowed us to focus on things that rather than just looking backwards and being unhappy with results, focusing on the future and making the results happen that we wanted to have happen. So we tightened up our operation, our governance to an extent, and really improved the profitability of the business, which was great. And that became a bit of a pendulum in our journey. Is the pendulum has gone between profitability and growth. Hard to find that middle ground and leave it there. It seems we are always a bit too far one way or the other. But getting profitable certainly opened the doors, allowed us to start doing some things. All of the growth has been organic, except one purchase. We bought PSA, which was a brokerage owned by Malcolm Bryce, and brought on 3 of his kids as partners. And that really allowed us to get focused on the aviation sector, which continues to be a pretty significant niche for us. And then we also stumbled into some luck and got appointed with Surex Global. When HKMB sold to Hub, they had to leave, and they were kind enough to recommend us. And on a generous day, I think Greg Belton thought that we'd be a good fit with some of these other partners in the States. And maybe on a more cynical day, I think he thought we'd fall on our face and they would keep all the business that they had. So truth was somewhere in between. And that turned out to be a really fortuitous for us. And for me personally, we ended up running pretty hard with that international business. much of it out of the States, but a lot of it internationally. And that really allowed us to become a lot more sophisticated in our offerings. And we had to become more sophisticated in our offerings in order to be able to do the things that were expected of us on some very large international placements where we're looking after the Canadian side of it. I'm not even going to try and repeat all of the handles that Rick and Vertical Growth gave us. Everything from Colby's through to BHAGs through to a really disciplined sales process. And some of you may or may not know that I actually taught the course, the sales course with Rick for a few years. And that was, I realized in hindsight, because Rick saw me as a remedial project. And the only way I was going to learn this was to teach
Do
it. So
Yeah.
it worked really well. And so
It sure did.
It became the center point of our growth. We don't quote anybody except clients. We have a very, very disciplined sales process that you would all recognize as having its heart within VGN concepts. And we've been pretty disciplined about developing all those value addeds that turn into spears and allow us to harpoon those whales. So moving up market became really, really successful for us. At the risk of jumping around, thinking about stuff that we do differently, one of the unfortunate realities that we started to realize is that maybe we could have moved a little faster on some of the stuff that we did, but that elapsing of time caused our partnership, the people that were shareholders in our group, to end up with some misalignment in our personal goals and personal aspirations, where I thought we were all on the same page, certainly, and we're all on the same page at 1 or 2 points in our lives. As people moved in different directions, we didn't put enough effort into reaffirming that we're in fact all pulling in the same direction and have the same plan. And again, with the clarity of hindsight, understanding the difference between acquiescing and agreeing is something that I've become a lot better at identifying.
Right.
And that ended up with some disappointing results, disappointing for me personally. So we ended up going separate ways with Don Vince, who I'm sure you all remember. We ended up selling him a small portfolio business, but the interest in what we wanted to do was starting to fray. We were, to again use a Rick colloquialism, we'd become a bit of a country club with too much profit, if that's a real word, and not investing enough back in the business, and that became a bit of a chasm in how we wanted to move things forward. So in buying them out, we ended up bringing 2 other partners to the table, because while we could have carried the debt, it would have meant that we were basically going to have to use this excess profit for paying off debt, where what we wanted to do was invest it back into the business. So we had stumbled on 2 partners, one of whom we'd known through VGN, Wedgwood Insurance, and then Shaw Saby, who we stumbled on through Assurex relationships. And they both expressed interest in taking the equity place that we were buying out, Don and Elaine and Rob. And so we ended up with no debt and partners that all seemed pretty aligned. So off we went with a goal of pulling everything together on a national platform. That turned out to be a little more complicated than we thought maybe at first. And so when we started acting on that, that took us probably almost 4 years really to get everything in order to be able to do it. And so then we're ready to pull the trigger on that, and then another misalignment occurs between our shareholders. So we had to buy out the Bryces now, who felt that they needed a controlling veto in our shareholder agreement going forward. And they were the only ones who thought that was a good idea. So we ended up having to go separate ways with them. That was a little more acrimonious, and happy to say that that finally finished last September. And so we're now kind of moving as fast as we can. In fact, there should be an announcement shortly about creating this first step of this aggregation in the next couple of weeks. So pretty happy about that. But going back to the foundations that we built on, without doubt, they're all anchored in VGN concepts. Again, Rick introduced me to Strategic Coach, which has been a personally very, very important part of my journey in understanding what it is that I want to do, and the echoes through VGN and what we do is really, really common. So it's been a real pleasant journey. As Stephen was saying, no one would believe what a fabulous industry this is, whether it's the economic returns or whether it's the friendships. Personally, I've been able to travel the globe as a result of what we're doing, and couldn't say enough about how fabulous the opportunity is for people. I think the last thing that I would say is that when, as I can't remember, maybe it was Laura started out, the confidentiality and the ability to be pretty blunt about challenges and problems that we're all facing is undoubtedly significantly valuable. And that created the foundation that allowed us, certainly with Wedgwood, to almost seamlessly integrate the two operations because we had so much cultural alignment, so much commonality in the way that we were working. It seemed quite effortless. So the idea that we've uniquely applied these lessons, I don't think is true. I think the lessons applied by anybody create a real opportunity for success. I think as Tim was talking about, it's every idea seems to have spun out a success, which makes it easier to adapt for the next one. So I go back just to finish, circle back to Colby. So the other thing that I learned with Colby was that not only what I'm good at, which is a very, very narrow sector of things, but it also helped me understand the points of friction that I have with people. So when I come up with a genius idea that I dreamt about last night and somebody else wants to find out if it's legal to do that, I don't get as frustrated anymore with them slowing down the idea. And it's been really super valuable to me personally to try and put myself in other people's shoes and understand their perspective.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm any good at it now, but intellectually, I know it's what I'm supposed to be doing. So
there is a
thank you.
specific report now available that you can actually say, like, I know I work closely with whoever, somebody else in my department, and I know that there are potential friction areas. So what might they be? And they just sort of do a combining the two reports and come up with your most the biggest things that you really need to work on to make sure that you have a good relationship and one that you can actually accomplish tasks together. It's a very interesting report. Rick and I had one done, and we are both totally opposite of each other. Like our Colbys are 100% opposite. And it was very interesting to see like some of the things that you can do and should do in order to make sure that you maintain a good, solid relationship where you can get stuff done. Interesting report.
Sadie, is it a short report?
It's a pretty short report. Yeah, well, it's probably about as long as your typical report. That, you know, like,
okay,
because
that's too long. That's too long.
oh yeah, that's
is there
right.
an executive
Quick start.
summary?
There is an executive summary as well. Yes, I got that. Rick had a problem with that too, being his 10 quick start.
Well, the other day, somebody explained to me that you can scroll down on the screen on your email.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All kinds
No,
of
you can't,
additional
Rick.
info.
Don't do it, Rick. Don't do it.
I'm a 3 quick
There's nothing
start.
down there.
Yeah,
Andy,
there's nothing.
that's a great story, and I appreciate you finishing on the Colby
Yeah.
subject. I just have a general question to you, and I extend it to the rest of the group. Has anyone seen someone be successful in a production role who didn't have a high green?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, we do. In fact, we use Colby for all hires. Everybody has the Colby score. It's on our signature line on our emails, etc. But we don't use it anymore as an indicator of success for salespeople. We've just found too many different types of people in different niches. Pilots, or sorry, in the aviation sector, it wouldn't surprise you that pilots aren't very high in quick start. Thank God. They spend a lot of time
Yeah.
following very
Detail.
disciplined, detail oriented. And so the people that interact with them tend to, and are successful, tend to have a bit more of that. I think if there's anything, we would just look for avoiding reticence when it comes to quick start. So if they're a 1 or a 2 or a 3 in quick start, I still wouldn't use it as a negative filter, but I would highlight for them they need to get comfortable with accepting those
Change.
new ideas.
Yeah.
I'll
That's me.
throw one in there too. Chris knows my son Brock quite well, and I know his quick start is a 2, which he didn't believe was quite that high. So he retook it and got it down to a 1. And he's consistently our top producer. And sometimes in both personal lines and commercial lines. You know, he doesn't there's the feed the tigers metaphor, and he considers himself a carnivorous sheep, and so that's his. But his Colby is very, very low, and basically by following the pilot system, he just lives off referrals. That's where he gets everything.
Wow.
On the pilot metaphor, I think a high quick start might be a successful bush pilot, but a low quick start is more likely to be a successful 767 captain, for whatever that might be worth. But no, I don't think we can use Colby as a yes/no for salespeople.
Omnia seems to be a little more focused and maybe useful in that area.
Or DISC. Pat Lencioni has a fairly new tool called the Wonders of Work. Maybe you've seen 6 Wonders. It's kind of in between Omnia and Colby. Anyway, I'm watching the clock.
Yeah.
This
we're
has
almost
been
there.
great. I don't want this to end, but end it must. I anticipated you might ask me what's my last shot if I'm going to speak to this group again. I would say my last word to the 3 of you, or the 6 of you, would be 3 things. Grow your own. And what I mean is things like you're doing, Al, with building a 4-person training capability. Stephen, you did this with Rebo licensing. I think all brokers are going to have to wean themselves off poaching from other brokers as a way of meeting their staffing requirements. Time to pay the piper. You got to build an onboarding and training capability. Number 2, I continue to be astonished at the lack of investment in leadership development in brokerages. It's your leaders that are going to see you to continued success, and leadership can be learned. So if you got someone who's a not so hot leader, don't ditch them. Try and invest in them and develop them. But if you're not spending a significant amount of money on leadership development, you maybe going into the next round of this game in not the best shape. And unique competitive advantages were part of my very first shtick when I started consulting and coaching, but I think it remains true. You got to be different. There's way too many boring insurance people. So if you can be different in everything you do in a good, constructive, positive way, you're going to attract more attention and get more at bats. No time for look, copy, quote, pray. So you're an amazing group. It's been a blessing for Sadie and me to have the opportunity of working with you. I'm actually choking up right now. I know I got to let you go, but as I said, I don't want this to end. So we'll send you the recording.
Yep.
And maybe you can pretend it's a podcast and listen to it when you're driving somewhere. So thanks ever so much for the gift of your friendship and your trust. And it's great to hear the stories about how you've taken what you've learned and multiplied it umpteen times over. So thanks, gang. I hope we get a chance to do something like this again. I'd love it.
You bet.
Sounds like a
Right.
great plan. Until we meet again.
Thank
Until
you
we
very
meet
much.
Very much, Rick.